everybody! Welcome to Into the Wormhole. I'm Larissa, and this is my number one.
Hey everyone, it's Lauren.
Yay!
I had to try like my chill intro. I haven't really done that yet, so that's my swing at it.
I don't have any chill.
You're always on 11.
I am always turned all the way up, constantly. So this is an interesting time to be doing a podcast. I mean, it's an interesting time to just be alive. As most of you know, there is right now the largest civil rights protest in the history of the world happening. And it just didn't feel right to do our episode this week without acknowledging that and just talking about it for a little bit. Lauren and I talked about, and we have had on our list for a while, doing an episode that sort of tackles some of these issues that are being talked about a lot right now. We had, actually a couple of episode ideas on our Google Doc, but it didn't seem right to just throw something together at the last minute and not do it right. So this week, we are still doing a reaction to episodes 6 through 10 of Picard like we promised, but we are also doing our own work on our own, and we are planning to do an episode in the future where we talk about how Star Trek handles some of the issues that we're going through right now and have been for a long time. So I wanted to personally say, as a person of color who is non-Black, I feel like I have a lot of work to do, and I'm trying to do my best as far as where I'm putting my energy and where I'm putting my money. And I saw online today that TrekMovie.com and the Roddenberry Podcast Network and a lot of people in the Star Trek community have put together a hashtag Trekkies Together, and they're encouraging Star Trek fans to donate to organizations on the ground helping people right now, which I think is incredible. Star Trek came up in the era of the civil rights movement in the 60s, and diversity and inclusivity was always part of Gene Roddenberry's vision for the franchise. And I think all of us as fans know that, and that's one of the reasons why we love the franchise so much. So I would encourage everyone to check out the Trekkies Together hashtag, see what they're suggesting as far as places to donate or places to volunteer. I know TrekMovie.com is donating some of their proceeds to the ACLU. The NAACP is also another great organization that's been around for a long time. The Southern Poverty Law Center, your local Black Lives Matter chapter, bail funds in your cities, bail funds in Minneapolis. And then if you're in Nashville, Gideon's Army is an incredible organization that has been working for racial justice in Nashville. They were helping communities in North Nashville rebuild after the tornado that happened here in March. I would also encourage everyone to write to your representatives, write to your senator, write to your congressperson, write to your city councilor, and tell them how you feel about this. It's their job to listen to us. So I would go online, find out who your city councilor is, find out who your senator is if you don't already know, and send them an email, call their office, do a little work and do a little research and see how best you can help. These are crazy times right now, and we have a lot of opportunity to make really good change. And I think that it would be a shame if we didn't contribute to it. So that said, I also want to say there are lots of great episodes of Star Trek that touch on a lot of the stuff that's happening in the world right now too. TNG, I mean, The Outcast, Measure of a Man, The Enemy, The Drumhead. These are all great episodes for learning a little bit about social justice. They touch on a lot of subjects, but none of them really touch on race that much. The drumhead does. The drumhead does. uh, but above all of these, I would suggest if you're interested in watching some Trek, but you also want to do a little work, the episode Far Beyond the Stars, it's season 6, episode 13 of Deep Space Nine. This is a great episode to watch right now. It's directed by Avery Brooks. His performance in it is just gut-wrenching, and I think it's a really important episode, just period. Regardless of genre, it's a really important piece of television. So yeah, thanks for letting me talk for a little while, Lauren. That's what I wanted to say about it. I hope everyone out there is safe and, doing their part.
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, don't thank me. Thank you, because I think you said everything perfectly. I don't think there's anything I have to add, except ditto. The only resource that I will suggest is if you happen to be a parent or an educator or just somebody who have young children in their lives, say, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, embracerace.org has put together a great list of over 30 books for young readers and children to start healthy, constructive conversations about race, activism, and acceptance of diversity. So embracerace.org. You can go and check it out if you find yourself at home and you at the very least want to start some good conversations with your family members and are trying to find a way to do that.
That's so great. Your kids are never too young to start talking about these things. So yeah.
Exactly.
In these exhausting times when we're trying to make change and we're trying to do the right thing and we're trying to do all this work, I think it is really important to recharge. You know what I'm saying?
We're right back at hashtag Star Trek self-care, I think.
Yeah, it's completely. Sometimes you have to put on your own oxygen mask before you can put on one for someone else. So like if you're not healthy, then you can't fight, So I think it is important to like take some time and like rest your mind and watch some Star Trek. So let's talk about some Star Trek.
That's why we're here.
It's been some time since we've talked about this show.
It has been.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been. I actually went back, rewatched episodes 6 and 10. I remembered quite a bit, but I just wanted to kind of, again, refresh and see if there was anything I missed or I felt differently.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything that I noticed differently, although I do have like a comment on like the rewatch value of the show. But I remember earlier I texted you and just said you have homework that I wanted you to write like a quick 15-30-second blip of your thoughts, kind of like when you read an article and it's the headline and then underneath they have an additional 2 to 3 sentences that kind of summarize a little bit more of what's to come with the full article. I hope that was clear what I was asking.
It kind of was. I don't know if I did it right.
No, that's okay. It should be entertaining. Because I kind of was curious, just like an article kind of at the beginning of the podcast, just to get like a quick summary of your overall snippet. And then I was going to give the same. And then I thought it'd be interesting to take it from there. And if this doesn't work out, we'll screw it. We can just edit it out.
Yeah.
So do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Oh, God. Okay.
Oh, or I can go first. Do you want me to go first?
No, I can go first. I'll go first. I will make a slight prediction. I will say that you are going to be a little more positive than me this episode.
Okay.
That's my prediction. It may not be like a huge gap, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is my kind of little sub headline that I would give. Also, I will just say, disclaimer, I'm not a reviewer or a critic. I'm here to give you some thoughts and hopefully entertain you. So
we're just fans. We just really love Star Trek.
This is not a good way for me to like start my little blip, but by all means, like please don't take what I'm about to say the next hour or so too seriously.
We are going to be very responsible for our own opinions. These are our opinions.
Okay, so here's as like journalistic as I get.
Okay.
Star Trek Picard tells a story worthy of a cinematic telling. Unfortunately, its rush to tell it in 10 episodes results in deep character development being sacrificed.
I'm
not saying there's no character development. I just said deep character development.
Yes. I feel you.
I have some additional summary points, but I kind of want to hear your little blip first.
Okay. Mine's more like a tagline, I guess.
Awesome. I love it.
Okay. Star Trek Picard. It's really fun if you already like Star Trek. Once you get past all the Easter eggs, there's some story in there.
Oh, this is going to be a fun episode, I think.
Yep.
To see already, I think we have some good places to go with that. I do want to say this. I have 3 little bullet points I wanted to say before we get in.
Yeah.
I think there are some faults, but I was entertained. I never found myself pausing an episode to see how much time do we have left?
When is this over?
Yes, I will say that.
Yeah.
I have seen things recently that I think are better examples of the artistry of storytelling, but maybe I have to admit, I wasn't quite as entertained. I felt like it was a little bit of a slog. I won't name what those things are, but so I can at least give it that. I felt like I was entertained and I was intrigued to see it through. I did feel like once I thought about the fact that in the history of Star Trek TV shows, season 1 is rough.
Yes.
I mean, in some cases, season 2 and season 3 are rough.
Yes.
So for the fact that we have to say okay, this is a season 1, not that it means we're comparing it to a low bar.
Yeah.
But for season 1, it's it's pretty good compared to some of the other things we've seen.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing that I didn't. This season 1 didn't have what was that season 1 episode of TNG that's just so racist?
Oh, is it Code of Honor?
Picard doesn't have a code of honor. But you know what I'm saying? It's the bar is higher, I guess.
I'm just saying, when you think about it as a show compared to, there's some amazing things that are out there right now on TV that you can watch. But then, I mean, again, not to say we're comparing it to all. When you do sit down and compare it to all the season 1s, you're like, oh, okay, actually, so far it's better.
Yeah.
I mean, even Discovery, I saw quite a few people just say it's a little uneven, it's a little scattered.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't watched all of Discovery, so I can't comment on that. Yeah, and then this is something we get into later, but it was interesting rewatching the second half because since I feel like it's so focused on that main story it's telling.
Yeah.
We lose, I think, some of maybe the nuances of the characters and the development. For me, the rewatch value wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
Once you know what's going on, I don't think, we don't have in these moments of birthday parties in 10 Forward or, Riker making egg omelets that taste horrible for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know they were probably not going for that. Don't get me wrong. I knew this was going to be a different tone and everything. But I realized going back how much I like those little moments. So I've talked quite a bit. I kind of want to give the reins to you and let's see where this goes.
Yeah. So it's the moments that you're looking for with character development in them are sometimes the moments that maybe it doesn't seem like a lot's going on. And that's why I feel specifically, and this is not just because my old friends are in this episode, but that's specifically why I feel Nepenthe is the best episode of this half.
And is that the one where they see Riker and Troy?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we actually get to know Soji a little more in that episode. There's interaction. There's you have to sit with your feelings. They have to talk to each other. She's got a lot that she's just experienced and she's having to process it. And it helps that, like, we already know Troy and Riker, of course, but, like, we don't know Kestra. P.S. Oh my God, cried when he said her name. I was like, they named her Kestra. Oh my God. Sorry.
Wait, what's the Kestra link?
Kestra is the name of Troy's older sister who died.
God. Dark Page.
Yes.
Are we talking about Dark Page?
Yes.
I totally missed that.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm a bad Star Trek fan.
No, it's okay. I also like really love that episode specifically and have stated that on the podcast already. But yeah, I was like, that's nice. But again, like I said before, like I'm just like, sometimes I just feel like I'm wading through Easter eggs. Like I'm wading through fan service and I'm not as much getting like to the, you know, the meat of what they're trying to say. And I thought I was going to have that more in this episode in Nepenthe, but I didn't. I felt like it had the least amount of that. Like it was more, it was very much more about like, okay, Soji's really fucked up and with good reason. And Picard has no idea how to handle this. And putting them in this situation where he's now with two of his oldest friends. They're married. They're now both parents. They're the perfect people to give him advice on how to handle this and how to be the best, like basically parent to Soji, you know? So,
well, not only that, like going back to Kestra, Kestra is so sort of innocent in her excitement about Soji.
Yeah.
Like Soji's not really being a jerk to her. She finds like it seems like Kestra's the only character that she really opens up to.
Yeah, because she's not being judged. There's no judgment. She's
just like, whoa, do you sweat? Do you have mucus? Like she's just
that was so cute.
And and Soji's just kind of it's like a safe way for her to come to terms with what's going on instead of just it all being about her butting heads with the adults.
Yes. Otherwise, I feel like all of these relationships are half-assed, with the exception of like there are a couple of relationships that I'm like, okay, like I totally get why Eleanor like locks onto Seven so hard. Like that I think is very sweet. But like Girardi and Rios,
oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up because their development of their relationship just seems kind of weird and random.
Yeah.
And once again, the trend of I don't understand how this show goes about writing relationships shows up. We talk about Girardi and Rios a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Like okay. If she just wanted to have sex, I feel like that would be one thing, you know? If she was just like, I need to get my mind off of this horrible thing I just did, and I just want to have sex so that I don't. That's a thing, right? But then they like are holding hands at the end.
Yes.
And like, I'm like, why couldn't it would have been so much more evolved, honestly, if it was just like, I need to fuck right now, so I'm not thinking about how I just murdered my ex-lover, and then that's it.
Yeah.
But like, why do they have to be a couple now? Ugh.
Okay, well, I completely agree because it would have been more interesting if they had hooked up.
Yeah.
And then throughout the episodes, maybe even going into next season, that kind of develops.
Yeah. Because it's like all of a sudden everyone forgives her for murdering someone, first of all. Like, you're going to forgive her. You're going to forgive her for murdering someone and then enter into a romantic relationship with her immediately.
Not to rewind, into the previous scene, but Narek just says, I love you at a really awkward time. It's a very awkward way to write intimacy.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way with this scene. What happens is Rios is playing soccer and Agnes comes up.
And he's being really, really hot playing
and he's
soccer.
Shirtless. I literally thought this was a dream scene. I thought this was no, hear me out. I thought this was going to be that sort of storytelling trope of I even said out loud to my screen, I said, well, that's not real when they kissed, because I thought what was going to happen is we were going to have that sort of cliche moment where her eyes open and the camera zoomed in and then she pops out of bed and she realizes, oh my God, I have the hots for Rios.
Yeah.
That was going to be the beginning of sort of this awkwardness
Yeah.
between them that would start.
And that would have made more sense.
Yeah. And you're right. It's very intimate when I think the only interaction we've really seen is when she goes up to the bridge one time to kind of bug him.
Yeah.
And that's it. So again, it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. I hated it. It was stupid. I thought it was really stupid.
I don't get it.
Ugh. I mean, I have a lot of problems with Jurati in general. I just don't.
Well, maybe
I don't have any.
Maybe we should talk
her.
about her. Maybe we should talk about her because we didn't talk about her at all last time. We just didn't have the room in the episode.
Yeah. Well, and also she hadn't done anything exciting until the end of episode 5.
True.
So like
she kills Maddox.
She killed Maddox, and that was the only exciting thing she had done. And we didn't know that she'd been contacted by Commodore O. We didn't know that she'd been like delivered the, what did they call it? The admonition. We didn't know any of that stuff. It's hilarious to think that like this character was so uninteresting to me until she murdered someone.
I think she had some cute moments early on. In her night, I thought that Elnor and her kind of were two sides of the same coin, where they were the non-space characters.
Yeah.
And I thought they kind of shared the responsibility of being the character who was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. But I don't understand. She gets the admonition from Commodore O, right? And she throws up.
Which is like the prophecy, in case anyone...
Yeah. The prophecy about the AI coming and destroying everything. Which apparently is just a supercut of a bunch of people trying to pull their eyes out, and then that stock footage of that dead fox being eaten by the maggots, and then some fire and stuff. And then, like, this is so horrible that it convinces her that she has to kill Bruce Maddox, and she has to, like, go on this mission. But then she changes her mind about it so fast. Once she, like, admits what she's done and then meets Soji, she's like, I never would have. It's like, was the thing that you saw in the mind meld really that bad? Or what happened with it? Like, why all of a sudden are you now trying to, like, why are you trying to get the thing out of your bloodstream? Is it because you're in love with Rios all of a sudden? Like, why? What made her change her mind? How now is like saving La Serena more important than the scary thing that you found out about with the AI in your brain? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this is a really good example, actually. I appreciate the fact that, in theory, Picard was 10 episodes. That it wasn't just like, well, we have to do 20 plus episodes because that's how we do TV. That's kind of one of the nice things about programs that are now on streaming services, and the writers can just say, well, it's as long as it needs to be. But at the same time, I feel like Picard could have used some breathing room because not only character development, but I felt like sometimes character development was shoehorned in, in some cases there were little threads like this that got dropped, and I think that's one where it's just, you're right, it's like all is forgiven and she seems fine.
Like she literally walks out and she's like, so I decided not to murder people anymore.
Yeah, and it's like, holy shit.
And everyone's like, aw. And it's like, what?
Oh, Agnes.
Like, what the fuck? No. Turn her in. She's a murderer.
Or maybe,
I mean, so is 7,
episode,
though, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where I think if they had just given themselves a little bit of breathing room, they could have, in a good way that didn't bog down the show, kind of mine a little deeper into some of these things.
Yeah.
I don't want to get us distracted from the Agnes thing, but even when Rios, it turns out that Rios has this thing with his captain who his brains were blown out and stuff.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's because it's Sutra's sister.
Yes.
Like that was an instance for me where it felt very kind of forced, where it's like,
yes,
we need something for Rios. Okay, he's involved with these synths. Yeah. And it's supposed to be some big reveal, but it feels like, well, we want to give him something for his character, but we got to tie it into the bigger story.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's just because they didn't know they were going to do season 2.
Yeah.
But
I thought that they signed up for 3 seasons.
Okay. I just kind of felt like that's something where it's like, that felt forced. And
yeah,
I felt like they could have worked on Rios's character in a different way instead of just saying he had this incident and it just happens to tie in with this whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel that in general about most of the new characters. We don't get time to get to know them, but it's because there's all of this stuff that's
we got to move on. We got to go. We've
got so much to do. We got to get them here. We got to get them there. We got to get them doing this and doing that. Especially with Soji in particular, I really wish we had more, because she's supposed to be the whole reason for all of this, you know? Like, she's at the center of everything. I wish we had more there. But then, like, going back to Jurati, though, her redemption arc is not satisfying for me. I'm just like for the whole rest of the time, this whole season, I'm still like, but she also murdered Maddox, though. Do you guys forget she murdered Maddox? Like, okay, so but you're gonna trust her now, though?
Yeah, and then also I kind of thought it was fun how her character was a little goofy and innocent, which we get like little hints of.
Yeah.
But then she's, after the Maddox thing, she's kind of benched into this territory with the post Maddox. And but then, like, it's weird because the very final episode she gets kind of goofy again when she's on the ship, like playing with the little pool and like her faces all multiply, and it's like Goofy Agnes is back, but it just seems out of place. Like they were like, okay, we could bring her back in,
right?
But yeah, it just seemed like a lot of characters were brought in and then kind of dropped. Like Elnor too, I really liked his first episode.
Yeah.
And I realize he did things, and putting like quotes around it, and I do agree, like his kind of boyish, it's not an attraction obviously, but he has kind of like a very childlike way of talking to Seven, and even to some degree Raffi at the end, where he's just very honest. He's like,
I love him.
He just, like, he tells Seven, like, I miss you. But at the same time, I also felt like he was another character that was so sidelined to some degree that I almost wish his episode was a bottle episode in season 1. Because I felt like his story was a good way to show how Picard, once again, he has this habit of being in people's lives and then kind of disappearing on them. Or they talk about it a lot in the later half of Picard. Riker calls him out on it. Some other people call him out on it about like, oh, it's always you. It's always what you want. Yeah. So, but I almost feel like it's like have Elnor in season 1 and then maybe bring him back for season 2 in a more worthy. Yeah, because he was another one. Ugh.
Here's the thing for me. There are too many fucking characters. There's just too many.
To like, have we them don't along need the whole ride.
So
There's too
many. If it was up to me, cut Narissa completely. Just get rid of her. Just put Narek in contact with Commodore O the whole time instead. Just get rid of that whole relationship. Commodore O could have been Narissa. You know?
I see what you're saying.
She's annoying and she's gross.
And you don't like the fact that her name basically is your name with an N.
I hate it.
I love the fact that the first time we did this, we couldn't remember
her name, but it's almost my name.
And then I started watching a closed captioning because I just needed to.
Yeah.
And then when I realized her name was Narissa, I just started laughing out loud.
Oh, God.
It's like, oh, of course.
Of course. I mean, there's just too many. There are too many elements and there's not enough time and there's too much going on. So, like, yeah, a lot of that stuff's going to fall by the wayside. A lot of character development is going to fall by the wayside because we don't have that. That's essential for developing a character is some time with them. The only ones that are the ones that already had characters. The characters already existed.
Yeah, they already had a foundation.
Yeah.
And I do want to acknowledge that in the other Star Trek season 1s, like, not every character maybe had the meatiest of foundations. It's not like every episode had, or I'm sorry, every season had like, this is the big Riker episode, or this is the big Picard episode. Like we obviously only got so much growth in season 1, and the way, and again, it's kind of like with shows being the way they are,
mm-hmm.
kind of need to maybe turn up the volume a little bit on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, Star Trek's just always done that really well with well, maybe not always. I'm like backtracking a little bit.
Well,
but
I mean, we love Star Trek. Star Trek doesn't do everything great all the time.
Yes.
It's okay.
But you have a good point, though. I don't know if anyone's going to walk away and say, God damn, Narek's my new favorite character. Or
no, I don't think anyone's going to say that.
Well, or you know what I mean? Like Elnor, Agnes. Like, I don't know if anyone's going to walk away. I will say this, though. I thought the person who got the best character moments was Raffi.
Yes. I'm really actually the most happy with her development. She went in a direction I wasn't expecting. I really loved that. Even though I was like the whole cake scene I was just like, stop giving her cake. She doesn't deserve it, Raffi. Don't give her that chocolate milk.
Is it cake?
Oh my God. But that she started to, I mean, the moments that we got with her, she started to like her redemption arc worked for me, Like she started to tap into her motherly instincts, and she started to show up for her friends. I mean, she had to go through a bender first. She was very sad. But after that, she sees things falling apart around her, and she tries to help. She's the one that's trying to be there for Rios, getting all the adorable emergency holograms together to try to figure out what the fuck is going on with him, because she's being a good friend. And her moment when she's drunk and she calls that person at Starfleet to get the credentials, I was so into that. She was so great in that scene too. It was wonderful.
It was interesting because I don't even know if I will need to call it a redemption arc. For me, it was just her getting some layers to her character.
Yeah.
If you ask me what Raffi's about, even though this was episode 5, I think, where she has that conversation with her son, and that's the whole reason why she's on the ship, and she's like, you can just leave me here, and her goal is just to see her son. There's really no reason besides, sure, they need to say why she's going there and is supposed to get off the ship, but that starts adding layers. That really is kind of what I'm talking about, like a nice character moment for her. But we understand that you mentioned Raffi's kind of broken.
Yeah. I mean, everyone
broken.
is.
She's broken
on the show is.
But she's resourceful.
Yes.
And she can be manipulative, but she also does have, like you said, kind of almost like a motherly concern where she goes check on Rios. I love the scene actually of Agnes, because where she's like, let Auntie Raffi connect you if whatever you need, because they're about to have a really rough ride on the ship. And you can tell that what Raffi is talking about is drugs, alcohol, whatever you need to calm your ass down.
Yeah.
And Agnes just goes, is it cake? Raffi says, yes. And then again, the scene where she's definitely compromised, being intoxicated, but she's still managing to get them on the board cube by sweet talking, the Starfleet person. So, but then at the very end, you can tell she's given everything she has, and she's got to get back to bed. She had little moments that, for me, made her feel well-rounded, and kind of started to weave these individual threads of her in an interesting way.
Yes, same. I agree 100%. It seems like she, even though she's fucked up, she's got addictions, she's got a lot of emotional baggage, but she has a strong moral compass, and she always has. She was the one that was there's a fucking conspiracy. She's the one that put her relationships aside because she knew something was going on and she wanted to fix it. She also knows how to take care of business. She knows how to get shit done. She's like, Girardi's going to be a problem. I'm going to satiate her right now. and I'm going to do a great job at it, and I'm going to make sure we can get our shit done while this person is going nuts. Like she's like, okay, so the emergency holograms know some things. I'm just going to collect them all in the holodeck, and we're going to have a conversation. I think you're right. She definitely had the best journey as a character.
Yeah. And we, they didn't wrap up everything nicely, which is fine because they
did have her holding hands with Seven at the end. Oh, yes. Everyone's speculating about what that means. I mean,
otherwise,
they're holding hands.
Yeah, but I guess like Raffi and not Raffi. Who plays Raffi?
Michelle Hurd.
Yes, Michelle Hurd and Jerry Ryan did kind of confirm in press outlets that they're supposed to be in a relationship, and we'll see more of that.
Aww.
But once again, I know it was probably one of those things where they're like, boom, what do you think of that? But it kind of brought me back again to the mentality I had with the other relationships where I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, like
everyone's just in a relationship.
Have, like, no interaction with each other. Like they haven't hung out. Like they haven't, like what? Like I was thinking, like, did they just all take a vacation on Soji's homeworld for a while? Like the very last scene seems like it's not like it's the next day after, Picard comes back. It seems like they've had some time at a resort and they've been chilling and now they're getting back on the road. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like there's some time missing there.
Well, once again, with Soji and Eric and Rios and Agnes, it's just this mentality of like, when the fuck, when did this happen? Like, what did I miss?
What happened and why?
I think now them, it was obviously so out of the blue, is meant to be intentional.
Yes.
That was definitely a like, we'll see you in season 2.
Yeah. They were trying to fuck with people a little bit with that. So yeah, I think we can sort of agree that it's a lot of it feels rushed, and the development of these characters and relationships doesn't quite feel like it's where we would like it to be. But also, it's the first season, and it's like the first season of a lot of my favorite shows is bad. The first season of Parks and Recreation isn't very good. Like it's
true. I do want to give one note though about Narek. There's a lot that I feel like is not satisfying. By the way, at the end we have to talk about like what the fuck happened to Narek.
Right.
But no, when it comes to just relationships, there is like, again, at the very end, they start to get into some moments where I'm like, you have something there of character development where Narek and Larissa,
no,
sorry, Narek and Narissa see each other again after the Borg cube crashes, and they see each other, and I even yelled at the screen. I was like, hug. and they did. They have like this moment of hesitation, and then they just hug each other. Like that for me was,
I was like, kiss.
No, but it was just like, finally, it was the most genuine moment I'd seen from them together.
Yeah,
especially as brother and sister, where it's this very like hesitant acknowledgement that at the end of the day they're still family, and they do care about each other, even though they're constantly just like wanting to kill or sleep with each other, maybe both.
I had a comment about Narek too, which is that the other night Dan and I watched, have you seen the movie Attack the Block?
No.
It is a fantastic movie.
Is he in it?
So I'm watching it and I'm like, this dude looks so familiar. Turns out it's Harry Treadway's twin brother. He has a twin brother named Luke, but I always want to call him Larry because it would be Harry and Larry. But he plays like a stoner kid, like a white stoner kid, privileged kid. But he's funny and like weird. And I was like, why does this guy look familiar? And why do I like him? And I feel like I'm not supposed to like him. And then I was like, oh. At first I thought it's him. And then I looked it up and I was like, twin brother?
And acting too.
Yeah. Weird.
They need Narissa, Narek, and Larry. The third Romulan.
The third, no, Narek's not the black sheep. Larry's the black sheep.
Well, it's funny you mentioned brothers, because one of the other scenes I found at the end with the two-parter kind of interesting was when the fire scene where you actually have Narek and Elnor together.
Mm.
And Elnor is very hostile to Narek, but you kind of suddenly realize that these are two Romulan, young men.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh God, they're so different, but they're both Romulans that have had a completely different upbringing. And so they're kind of ping-ponging back and forth this prophecy and myth of the Romulans' version of sort of the end of the world with the destroyer and stuff like that. And it was such an interesting thing. It made me think if they did have more episodes, I could totally see an episode where Narek and Elnor have to do something together. I don't know, like wander through the desert, one of those episodes.
Yeah.
But just the contrast of their personal philosophies and upbringing, but still being two Romulans, like those are kind of the little things I'm interested to see if they have given us a little more time.
I mean, especially because they're finally showing us diversity within species in Star Trek now. So like exploring that, exploring like the cultural internal diversity of the Romulan people is super cool to think about. I mean, in general, most alien species are monocultures in all of science fiction. So it feels kind of newish for science fiction to have multiple cultures within an alien culture in this context. Just like, I mean, think about like almost like any sci-fi with aliens in it. And the aliens are like Mars Attacks. They all look exactly the same. You know what I'm saying? Like they're all the same. All the aliens look the same and they dress the same and they have the same hair. That's just like a thing.
Yeah, done.
In general, we're done. We designed one alien, but then there are going to be millions of them. So this is exciting for, a fan to like sort of dive in because there's so much information. Like the franchise is huge. Like this is a whole universe that's been built over the course of like 60. How many years? 60 years. 60 years, right? About almost 60 years. I don't know how long things are. I don't know what time is anymore.
Time has no meaning.
I want to talk. There are a couple things specifically that I want to talk about with you. And one of them is when Picard goes back to the cube for the first time. Like he's never been back to a cube before.
Oh yes. We have. I was actually going that direction too.
Yeah,
lay it on me.
We haven't talked about that. That whole scene, I loved it, and that actually his whole interaction with Hugh, all of that I thought was fantastic. Of course, like here I am talking about that. We already know these characters, right? Like as fans, we already know them. We don't have to worry about them being developed. Whatever. They have a history, but him like having a panic attack. Going back to a cube totally makes sense. And it like just like broke my heart for him. I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. You have to go back there. It's so terrible. But also the fact that like then he sees Hugh and Hugh is so wonderful. And he's just like, however I can help you, I will do whatever you need me to do. And then his introduction to like what Hugh has done with his life. And how he's basically become an activist. Like, he's basically become an activist for XB rights. Like, that's what he's doing with his life. He's trying to rescue his people. And, like, it's just beautiful. Like, the whole, like, when he's walking him around, like, when they're like, using the dermal regenerators on these XBs who have just been reclaimed, they call it. And like watching them like look at themselves in the mirror and like start to see their humanity come back and stuff. And then Picard having that moment where he realizes like the Borg are victims and that's what they really are. And like he's saying it out loud because he's realizing that for himself. That like he's a
victim himself. Yeah.
But he was looking at the Borg in a very specific way. And he wasn't seeing himself in them until that moment. Until he goes back to see Hugh and then he's like, they're all me. All of us had our lives taken away from us. And that is very exciting to like take a step back and like look at the Borg in a totally different way, because forever they've always just been just scary zombie cyborgs. I mean, until Voyager, until 7, really. They didn't really have. I'm thinking about, like, remember Unimatrix Zero?
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Like when they're all like in that sort of when they're regenerating.
They're in Unimatrix Zero, yeah.
Oh yeah, when they're you remember Unimatrix Zero when they're in Unimatrix Zero?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but like that whole scene was so wonderful, and I loved how Hugh was able to, just by being who he is and doing what he was doing, change Picard's view of the Borg. Hugh, and then why did Hugh have to die? Why did Hugh be around forever? I was so sad.
I wanted to go back to the cube too, because I thought, like, we need to talk about Hugh, which I have to remind everyone that if you listen to the first half of the Picard review, I stopped at episode 5, even though there were more episodes out. Larissa went ahead. So I love the fact that I am talking to you in that episode, and I'm like, Jonathan Del Arco is doing great. I can't wait to see more of Hugh. And then,
I already knew he had died.
Yes. Is it literally the next episode he dies? And I just wanted to be like, son of a bitch. Like, Larissa knew.
I did a really good job.
You did amazing.
At not saying anything. I didn't spoil anything for you.
You have a good poker face. You need to be with the TNG crew playing poker. He has another great scene. Jonathan Del Arco plays that character wonderfully, and it's so nice to see a character who is not pissed at Picard. Like you said, he's like, hey, long time no see. I'd love to help you.
Yes.
And I also love. I just want to mention, I love it when Picard gets on the Borg cube, and the cube kind of like starts to sort of like pulse and undulate.
Yeah.
There was just like
there's some
nice
design elements that are cool. Like,
just like some nice touches too.
Updated Borg stuff. Oh, P.S. Before I forget, that one moment where he's walking with Hugh, and then there's just this Borg dude that's just like, Locutus?
Yeah. Hey dude, what's up?
It's like Josh? Is that you?
Have you been, man?
Like that's totally like how it came off. Just like seeing like a friend from high school like walking down the street. Anyway, sorry. I did want to ask
you. I did want to ask you this though. Does Hugh need to die?
I didn't think so.
I don't think so either.
I didn't think he did. But also, like, I know that I can't really trust myself sometimes when it comes to critiquing things that I love, because I personally didn't want him to die. Am I saying that because I wish there was more Hugh? Maybe a little bit. But also, it didn't, like, he could have, like, but I don't know.
I felt like he could have been, okay, first of all, I felt like he could have just been severely injured.
Yeah.
Or in a coma, and you could still have 7 be totally pissed and kill Narissa.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone thinking like, well, he has to die because then Gary Ryan will, do her thing. It's like, well, not really. You just have to have her get pissed enough.
Yeah.
And here's another question. In Voyager, they establish with one episode that 7 can just put her nanoprobes in someone or Borg technology and bring it back.
Was just thinking the same
after
thing.
19 hours. There's an episode where Neelix dies in a shuttle accident with like some, electric sci-fi force that kind of goes through the shuttle and shocks him. He's technically dead for 19 hours, and 7 just walks up and is like, oh, check this out. Boom. And uses, like, I think she literally just puts in her little probes.
Yeah.
And then he comes back, and it's been 19 hours. So once again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, once we do that, can't we just bring Hugh back? I mean, you're literally in a Borg cube,
right?
Surrounded,
right?
And 7 gets there.
Like, couldn't she put him in a regeneration stasis chamber?
that's the problem, right? With establishing these
Yeah.
things, is then you're just like, oh, couldn't they just, do that again?
Yeah, and also though, Hugh is ex-Borg, so doesn't he have nanoprobes in his blood already?
I have no idea.
Like
I
this
don't know if
is
they were. It just felt
we
like one of
just
those things where it's like, I think we have time.
I
I think he
feel like
just
we
got
could
like
have
something in the throat, and I feel like someone out there is explaining to us, yelling at their device, saying, "Well, technically, it's because Neelix A, B, and C. That's why Seven was able to bring him back." I don't know, but
right. I just desperately did not want him to die. It was very sad.
it's also a shame considering they've announced that LeVar Burton is coming back for season
I
2,
know. It's
and you
like he
kind of.
didn't even get to see Geordi
But I don't
again.
know. Maybe he's gonna maybe he's coming back because he's gonna get Hugh back. I don't know.
I don't
He's like, "You
know.
bastards! You killed my friend."
Oh god. That was like the sweetest part of Iborg was like he was like, "No, Geordi doesn't want to be assimilated."
I wish
Ugh.
they had just put him out of commission. Put him in a coma,
Yeah.
injure him, and then if you need to bring him
Like
back
leave
for
it
season
open.
2, great. Yeah. For me,
Yeah.
he was just such a highlight of the show. It's a shame they didn't keep
Yeah.
him around.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you feel about 7 of 9 as Queen 7?
I thought that was fun. I actually thought when I got a hint of that, it was kind of spoiled for me that she was going to do that, because when I got to CBS All Access, they had like a mini clip of it, and it just says "All Hail the Queen." I was like, thanks, CBS All Access.
Oh my god,
Um,
fuck you guys.
so I
That's
thought,
so disappointing. I'm so sorry because I had a lovely moment not knowing that was going to happen.
what was going to happen was that she was going to do that, and then we were going to have like a episode and a half. Yeah, like, oh god, is she going to come out? Is she going to let go of the power? But it actually wasn't as big of a deal as I thought they were going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was more that there was just that one moment of her getting control so that they could get the cube, basically. But I was like, "Whoo, shit." That was pretty awesome.
It was. Do you feel like it's kind of, you were earlier saying you felt like some things were put in there just to make the fans kind of laugh and go, "Yay!" Like, do you
I
think
don't
that
feel
was
like
a little
that
pandering?
one was. I felt like
Okay,
in order for like because they were so outnumbered, you know?
sure.
So like it seemed like the best way to get out of that situation because she's ex-Borg, so she knows her way around a cube, and because there's only 2 of them now and then the rest of the Zhat Vash everywhere. So like how else were they going to get out of there?
Yeah,
Um and I also thought it then led to another cool moment, which was the artifact just coming out of nowhere at that planet, which I also really enjoyed. I was like, yeah. Like a Borg cube crashing in like through the atmosphere of a planet. That was really fun to see. I enjoyed that. I thought that was cool.
I will say though, it is interesting that they did bring up the Queen, because I feel like I have read a few articles and things of people involved with Star Trek saying they kind of wish they had never introduced the idea of a queen.
Yeah, I
In
feel that way too.
So it was, because it kind of in a way compromises like what the Borg were all about.
Yeah, I agree with
Um,
that.
yeah, it's one of those things where you think about it and you're like, oh, like bees, and there's a queen, awesome, let's have a queen Borg. But then when you sit with it for a while, you realize, oh, maybe there were actually more fun and scary possibilities with. So the fact that they were just like, yeah, you don't know about this room, it's the queen's room, like, oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, the way they used it didn't bother me. It was just more of the idea of, that's interesting that they decided to bring that back. I realize they've done that in Voyager and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought from a fan perspective, like as someone who wants to see some cool shit, like not even caring like how it relates to the story really at all. I was just like, that's some cool shit.
You're just, well, you're like, I don't care. It's just
Yeah, it's just cool
cool
shit.
shit moment. I will suspend, all my
Yeah.
objections and disbelief.
I will say that, like, I wished that they had given us, like, a moment before Narissa opens the airlock where we really saw some, like, unreclaimed Borg start coming out of their
tearing
chambers
apart
and just ripping some shit apart. Like, I was hoping for that, and we did not get that.
Yeah, just
I
like a
wonder if
little
that's
bit of action.
budgetary thing.
I don't think so. But like you're even saying, like, give us 2 minutes
Give
of
us
them
some,
starting.
yeah, give me some Borg action. This whole show is about the Borg and AI. Like, come on. Let's see. How about another Brent Spiner?
Oh God, I feel like once again it's like I'm another family member, and isn't it a coinky-dink that I look exactly like?
Yeah, I mean,
My
there's
father,
one
or
in every. There's one on Enterprise too.
I know. I was going to ask you about that because you just finished Enterprise, and yeah, isn't he like the grandfather
Like,
who's
or
working
great
with the?
grandfather or
Yes,
something.
yes,
Yeah,
great,
and he's
great.
bad. He's like really bad. Yeah.
Yes, but it's sort of like we can only do this so many times, guys, before we believe you all look so much alike.
Yeah. I mean,
It,
that's one of those that I was gonna say fits into my I'm wading through fucking Easter eggs all the time, and just why like I love Brent Spiner. We all love you, Brent Spiner. Like, we didn't need that character.
it seemed very. I mean, I just know a lot of people are like, okay, like Soong had a son.
We never heard
And
about him.
yeah, I mean, you even have. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't assume that it's our Data's mother, quote unquote,
Juliana.
Juliana,
Yeah.
yeah, is at least the real Juliana. I guess we shouldn't
Yeah.
assume that's the mother, but it's like, okay, so now we're doing this again, and once again, he's kind of also a major scientist who conveniently just happens to be in the same area of expertise and is just as good as it. It would almost be interesting if it was like, yeah, fuck my dad, like he never accepted me. I'm a sculptor.
Right? Right? Like, why does everyone in this family have an obsession with artificial intelligence?
I would have accepted it if it was like they had found some recordings while they were there, and it happens to be recordings of that character, or I don't know, like just like a little.
Like a hollow recording of Noonie and Sung. Like, if there was,
Yeah,
because like now Brent Spiner is the age that they made him
right?
up to look when he was playing Noonie and Sung. So
yeah, like in Brothers and stuff like that.
I mean, there are people also that are like, it's lore.
Oh, I know. I did read some of those articles, and I know everyone was hoping it was lore. It's like, sorry guys.
No, it's not. Whatever. I mean, Brent Spiner coming back as Data was all I needed. Like, I didn't need another Soong.
Yeah, I agree.
At that moment, I was just like, I'm so exhausted of all these Easter eggs. I don't need it all the time. I don't need an Easter egg in every episode. You know, not an Easter egg, but I don't need a callback in every episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's bigger than an Easter egg.
Yeah,
the whole freaking Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, exactly.
I also wanted to ask what you thought of Sutra, the gold-eyed
evil Soji. Evil Soji.
Yeah, I remember her name because I just think of Karma Sutra. And I'm like,
oh
Sutra.
Yeah, Sutra.
Yeah, but it's really interesting too because it seems like they have this very idyllic Synthville land, and Soong is like my children and stuff, and I'm like, Sutra's kind of screwed up. Like, I'm a little confused about how exactly these synths are constructed, or like what's nature versus nurture with him, because she definitely seems very conniving and self-serving.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like lore,
but not.
That's
something I guess I want to know, is because Lore literally had a different. He is a earlier.
His matrix is different. Yeah.
Yes, and he's like a. Well, and for instance, actually, one of the things that kind of is weird with that comparison is you see the other one, who I can't remember her name, but she's the one who greets them. She has the long hair. She's the one who gets her eye.
Yeah.
She's very almost innocent, naive in a Data way.
Yeah.
And to me, she comes off as like a earlier model than the Soji Daj looking one.
Yeah, I think
right?
it's the gold skin, yellow eyes is an earlier
And
version.
Sutra has that, but she
Yeah.
seems more sophisticated emotionally. Like she definitely reads more human, but again, like she has a lot more negative traits. So if anything, it's weird that like this earlier one is the one that, does that make sense? Like before in
Yeah.
Data, it was backwards.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I don't really know. I mean, is it just like luck of the draw like it is with humans? Like
Yeah.
you don't know if you're going to, like if your kid's going to be a football player or if they're going to be a, you know what I mean? Like you have no idea
Yeah.
like what's going to happen.
And that's kind of what
Maybe.
I'm curious to know, is because again, it seems like, okay, we just need Sutra to be that character who is on board with getting the, synth alliance there to rescue them. And so
Right.
she's
I was thinking about how like maybe it's like after she receives the admonition that she starts to like become that way, but like those things all already have to be there first. You know, like she's, I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Actually, that's a really interesting idea you have. Like for humans, we can't process it.
Yeah.
But the idea that, because for instance, like if they are supposed to be logical, or, I mean, Soji's very sophisticated, but if we go with that logic that Sutra is an earlier model with her having the less human appearance of the yellow eyes and the cold skin,
Yeah.
the idea that once she gets that message, it's sort of like, well, this is what makes sense. Like this is
Yeah.
logical.
Like maybe that also it possibly could have like reprogrammed something in her. I mean, it's
Right.
like that episode where like Data gets like a thing that happens and he just like basically hijacks the Enterprise to go
Oh
home.
yeah, which
You
is
know?
brothers too.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah, that
Yeah.
is brothers. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like maybe something like that happens.
Well, that would make sense too, because if you think about it, if Agnes is so affected that she's willing to kill Maddox, it could affect the sense in the same kind of way where it's like, oh my God, like obviously I have to do this now that I know. But
Yeah, yeah.
but once again, since they don't really take the few extra steps to go into that development, it's just that's the way Sutra is.
Yeah, instead of it being the super AI, which I have a theory about, which, you know, some people have a theory about, is reprogramming lesser synths, you
Yeah,
know, to
or
lesser
that.
AIs to like sort of get to its goal.
Yeah,
So
like get
like
in line.
yeah, so people are saying that like that AI is an AI called Control from Discovery.
Oh,
This like
I've heard things about that.
yeah, that they're connected to each other, which would make sense, which is kind of cool. Control is actually very scary and like one of the things that started making Discovery interesting. People are like Control is the new Borg. Um
Okay.
yeah, so that's interesting, like a time traveling artificial intelligence that's trying to go back in time and again, like the Borg, go back in time and basically you know, kill off all organic life and take control of the entire galaxy. So there's that possibility.
But I mean, if they were going to do that, then even if it's not revealed until later, like season 2, the way they handle little things about her character, like even like watching her interact with Narek, where she's like, again, awkward touching, where she's like,
Yeah.
oh, my desire to kill you doesn't, override my desire. But again, it's just like, it's not written as if there's this shift or this kind of slow compromise to her.
Yeah.
um it's just
Or
sort
just like
of,
a bam, now I'm this way.
yeah,
Like
like she
there's
just sort of,
I don't know. Yeah,
and
I
then
feel
and
like
then
we're like editing it and making it better right now. So, I guess should we talk about Picard's fate? Did you
a
have some
little
other
bit, I
stuff you
kind
wanted to talk
of,
about before that?
only one. I don't know if you noticed the way I did, but at the end of the episode, the whole season, you're like, what happened to Narek? um
Yep.
I can't explain this clear enough to our listeners. Literally, the last scene of Narek is him getting shoved to the ground by the synths and him yelling, Soji, don't do it, and then getting dragged off. That is the last scene or mention of Narek.
Where'd he go?
Well, apparently, I don't know if this is true. This is one of those like allegedly things, but a lot of fans noticed that. We don't have to have like a big spiel about what's going on with Narek, but usually there'd be like a quick camera angle of him sitting in the brig, or he's wandering the desert because he walked away, or just like a line or two of dialogue.
Right.
But it turns out what happens apparently is somebody involved in the show, I forget who, was mentioning their IG stories that it was after the fact. They noticed that too, and they said it was a victim of the editing room, that there was some acknowledgement of where Narek was at that point at the very end, and it just accidentally got cut.
Shit.
And I feel like that's kind of like a big thing.
That's a big deal
to kind of go unnoticed.
Oh my god.
So oops, accidentally didn't make it.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, let's talk about Picard's fate.
Oh, okay. So the whole scene with Data, I thought was wonderful. The whole idea of Data asking to die, basically, was because the idea of death being part of what makes us human, being mortal, is part of what makes us human, and that was what Data was
always striving for.
Yeah, that entire thing, the whole after he's brought back, Picard pulling out those isolinear chips, and then I don't know if you know this, but that version of Blue Skies that you hear, actually Isa Briones sings it.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's a very good singer, which is not surprising. Both of her parents are musical theater actors, and she's trained as well. I thought that was a very sweet, sort of
like poetic,
like flipping, because that was Data sang that song at the end of Nemesis, which is the movie in which he died, and then here is his daughter singing the song during his death. So I thought that was very nice little musical moment. I loved all of that, the wrap up of Data's character. My question is, how did they make a Picard synth so fast?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's in the Golem. You do know that, right?
But how they make him look like him so quickly?
I don't know.
That's what I'm
saying. The easy part where
why'd they make his skin? How they do it?
I don't know. I mean, also, if you think about it, remember Lal? It was just they picked out her in a catalog in the holodeck, and then
that's true. It's very true.
It feels like the next day or two he was just like, okay, here she is.
So that's very true.
Easier.
I mean, yeah. And we don't ever hear about how long it took Noonien Soong to make the Juliana android. Because remember how she ends up in sickbay, she's unconscious, and Beverly is like, she has tear ducts, she has pores, and it's a big deal because she has all these things that Data doesn't have.
Did you want him to be like an Optimus Prime or a robot, like a giant Picard robot?
No, I didn't. I mean, I wanted to be Patrick Stewart.
Well, how do you feel about him just dying? And then I was actually going to predict, by the way, we didn't really do predictions in the first half, but
because I'd already watched everything.
No, but one of the things I was going to say is I think Picard will die, and then when they announced season 2, I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. But I was like, oh, I'll be damned, he does die. But then since there's season 2, you're waiting. Okay, how do we bring him back?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's really interesting. I feel like they wrapped up too quick at the end, and all of a sudden the synth ban is no longer all of a sudden. You know what I mean? I think it would,
which is really convenient for him, since
right?
He is one now,
right? It was just out of the blue. Oh, no synth ban no more. Cool. What? But that was very fast. I thought that could have been a really interesting thing to see for Picard to be like actually advocating for the synth ban to be lifted, because he's like, hi, I'm a synth now and my life was saved due to this technology.
Well, I mean, there's many directions. Like, first of all, I think it's a little weird that the synth ban has just like poof,
Yeah.
gone away, because I think there's a lot of instances in history where there's change, but that doesn't mean everything really changes overnight. So
Right.
that felt very forced, and I'm okay with the fact that Riker comes and says like this is under protection and stuff. Unfortunately, just like in the real world, like things happen for the greater good, but not everyone's on board. We were even talking about how like the EMH in this show feels, you see the doctor from Voyager get all these sort of rights and privileges and respect, and these EMHs to some degree seems like a like backtracking that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Like it feels like for something as big of a deal as the synth ban was set up to be, it seems like we'd have to do a lot more work to get that ban lifted than just to realize that there's a double agent in the Federation. I mean, these are examples of, or these are symptoms of bigger problems. Like, things don't just happen overnight like that, like you were saying. So it's like, is there no bureaucracy in the Federation? Absolutely. There of course there is. Like, there's paperwork that's got to be signed. There's like, and also think about like, what would the public reaction to this be like?
Exactly.
Like, everybody's scared of synths. The information that they have is just that these synths went nuts on Mars and killed a bunch of people, and nobody knows why. So like, there has to be an investigation. Like, there's no investigation.
Yeah, and it feels like in a way like this, even though Star Trek in the past has established like a better version
Yeah.
of mankind, this Star Trek unfortunately has, there's been some fallout, and so it's like you kind of can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, you can't have old Star Trek where everyone is above all that, and then also have Star Trek Picard where the humans might be a little bit more like us in 2020. So for me, it's just like, if you've established this world where there's definitely some seediness going on, we gotta stay riding that wave the whole time. Yeah. So I think the start of it, like if they're mentioning like, oh, discussions have already started for
repealing the synth ban, but
blah
like
blah.
it hasn't happened. Yeah. It
exactly.
It definitely feels like there's some drop time in there, and that there's some investigation into that could have been really interesting to see. And I wish, because the thing is that like the adventure part is like the fun part, like getting in the spaceships and going through the transwarp conduits and shooting phasers and stuff and fighting with our swords. Like, that's the fun part. But like, the actual work for stuff like this in a society that's unjust is not like that. It is a lot of hard conversations and convincing people that you're right and convincing people to do the right thing. And it was very obvious already that like there was so much support for the synth ban that like to leave out that work seems like a bad call. In a way.
And also I want to say that if Star Trek has proved anything in the past, it's that those discussions can be actually very suspenseful and interesting. I rewatched Drumhead.
Oh my God. I love that episode.
Again, a bunch of talking and court scenes. And
that episode is fucking brilliant. That episode is incredible. Like, that episode is about racism toward Romulans in the Federation. But yeah, you're totally right. Like, especially TNG, maybe not as much Voyager, maybe not as much DS9, but like especially TNG was all about sitting and having the hard conversations. It was because Picard is a diplomat. Like, I would have loved to have seen Picard be like, hey, I'm a synth now. What are you going to do about it? I am like, and see, and like hear one of his monologues, hear one of his speeches where he makes everyone scratch their heads a little bit and look deep into their own souls at their own prejudice, which is what his character was like known for on TNG. I love those speeches. His speech in the drumhead. Ugh.
Yeah, even if that didn't wrap everything up per se, and then everything's fine, but even if it's the call to sort of be more open-minded, and again, like start the ball rolling in the right direction. I also think, to your point too, as far as like things that would have been interesting to see and are very kind of Star Trek-y in nature, is some conversation about, do we put Picard in the Golem?
Yeah.
Like that's a huge,
like to actually see that conversation happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Like them all like, we can do this. Could we do this? Like there's just like a little aftermath sentence or two. And I realize that's not the point. But again, it's kind of one of those things where, if there was a little more breathing room, because it does become a conversation and a point even when Seven bring Neelix back.
I feel like that's a very Star Trek conversation that got skipped over. Like that moral qualm. Those are the kinds of conversations that I love to get from Star Trek, and we didn't get that there. I was even just thinking just now, like, because like the very last scene, I kind of roll my eyes at that scene a little bit. The very, very last scene of the last episode. They're just all on the ship and they're like, where are we going to go next? And it's okay, whatever. They like quickly tie up some loose ends. Now that I'm thinking about it and I'm imagining it, my ideal ending would be like pan up and Picard is standing at a podium addressing the Federation, and he is starting the ball rolling process to lift the synth ban. And Raffi is with Picard's him
back
and she is now getting her credit where it's due, because she said the whole time, she was the one that was like, this is a conspiracy. There has to be something going on here. Like, that would have wrapped it up for me. Like, he's there with his crew. He's there with Daj. And he's like, also, P.S., I'm a synth now. What? Mic drop. End of the season.
It reminds me of, oh God, I don't know if you'll know this, but in the Iron Man movies, at the end, they do a press relief and he just goes, I'm Iron Man. And then all the press like goes nuts. And that's just,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I would have loved that. Like, give me a little bit of a Picard monologue. Like, let him be like, I'm Iron Man, drop the mic. And then that's the end of the season. Cause that, I don't know, there's something more fulfilling about that than just like, all right, now we're on the ship and we're all together and we're a family now. Here we go. It was just like,
yeah, and then again, it's like, you do kind of wonder, like, are they going to continue to? Will there still be fear of the synth? Is there going to be a movement like the Maquis or the Circle in Deep Space Nine? Is there going to be? Are we going to go back to Agnes being a murderer, or
like, is she gonna be haunted by receiving the admonition like later? Like, whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy the series. Like, I definitely am, but there were things that I was hoping to get from it that I didn't get, and most of those things have to do with like my relationship with Picard as a character and the things that I loved about him as a character in TNG. And that's okay. Like, I, again, was not, we've said this a million times, was not expecting it to be like TNG. Of course.
Or any of the past shows.
Like, absolutely not. But,
I think what it keeps coming down to me is just slow down. Like, it's entertaining. And I definitely think it's a good start.
Yeah.
But if there's one critique, not that anyone cares what I think.
I care. I would care, just say, Lauren. I really care what you think.
I would just say, slow down. Slow down. Give give the story, give everything a little more breathing room. That doesn't mean it has to be a 20 plus thing and we have to stuff it with
Yeah.
nonsense. But it's like maybe we just needed a few more episodes so that we could go a little deeper with the characters. Maybe address some of these more interesting philosophical issues that we're
Yeah.
bringing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do also have one more thing to say. I wanted to just briefly talk about the music for a second.
Oh, yeah, please.
So the guy who scored it, his name's Jeff Russo. He also scored Star Trek Discovery, but he is also one of the founding members of the band Tonic and is married to Nina Gordon from Veruca Salt.
Oh, wow.
For the most part, I want to say I like it, except for the fact that dude is just quoting TNG theme all the fucking time, and I got so tired of it. I was like, pick a moment, man. Like, I don't need to hear the TNG theme all the time to remind me that TNG existed. Like when they're on Nepenthe. Sure, here we are. He is with his crew from TNG. Now you can give it to us. But like every time someone says engage, like, come on. Like,
it got a little excessive. Did you like the main theme song? I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so I kind of feel the same way about the main theme of Picard as I do about Discovery in some ways, that they kind of have any weight.
Like, are they too delicate?
No, it's like that same, because there's this like new TV intro style now. You know, like with The Crown or like Westworld and shows like that, where it's like a whole bunch of animation and like a sort of haunting kind of sounding, very rhythmic theme that doesn't really have much of a melody to it. It's just a feeling more than anything else.
It kind of reminds me of what you're talking about when I was thinking about shows that have done that. Like, if you see that, I feel like it was kind of the very start of that, where, like you said, it's very haunting, kind of moody, kind of somber.
Yeah. I mean, I did appreciate that TNG quote at the end of the Picard intro theme that is played on the flute, which is supposed to be a callback to The Inner Light.
Yes.
Which I thought was very cute. I do like some parts of the melody, the da 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 da. That's pretty, but it's also like it's hard to compete with somebody like Jerry Goldsmith. And that theme music, I mean, it was originally written for Star Trek the Motion Picture and then used for the theme for Next Generation. And Jerry Goldsmith has written so many film scores, and he's amazing. He's an amazing composer. But I don't think it's about competing with that so much. It's more that like it just doesn't. It feels like so many other things. It doesn't feel like its own thing. Does that make sense?
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, like it doesn't have that iconic. Well, and I also wonder, because you probably are much more in tune with this than I am, no pun intended. But I don't recall really ever hearing the Picard theme being used throughout the show.
Oh yeah, I mean, it gets used a few times, but honestly, the TNG
okay,
quotes happen more often.
It's used more. Yeah, I wonder if they had infused it a little bit more. And then, next episode, you hear the theme, not reintroduced, but when it's just like re-imprinted on you, and then it becomes a thing. But like you said, if it's always like, here's the intro, now we're going to do a throwback to all the TNG stuff. It's like you never have that.
Yeah, it isn't
that pull, that bouncing.
Totally. I mean, I think maybe that's a little bit of it, but I also just it's not that exciting. Like just musically for me, I'm just like, okay.
I mean, first of all, I'm not a musician. This is definitely your area. I will just say I liked it fine.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like I'm pretty much okay as long as it's better than Enterprise. So I'm like, great, awesome.
See,
that's fine.
I'm even like, at least I remember the Enterprise theme, you know?
Ooh, that's a good point. You know, in wrestling, this is weird that I'm talking about wrestling, but in wrestling, they say you want the crowd to either love you or hate you. You just don't want them to
Yeah.
be indifferent.
Yeah. That's what I
Yeah.
mean, I feel that way about TV show theme songs. I think you're totally right in comparing those two things. So yeah, that was just like a little thing I had, a little issue I had. It's not a big deal. Well, I will go out on loving the uh image of Riker very sloppily making a pizza and just like throwing those tomatoes literally everywhere. Tomatoes everywhere, tomatoes burning. Love it. Loved that. Was into it.
Yep. He was cooking. I have to admit, in the beginning, I said, like, we need Riker making eggs, and he was making pizza. So
he does like to cook.
I stand corrected.
It happened. It happened. It really happened. Loved it. I loved it. I think that was also the day that a lot of people like came to visit the set. I think I saw a photo of like Michael Dorn and LeVar Burton like visiting the set that day because like everybody was there.
No.
And Michael Dorn's still sitting alone in his house, like, why aren't they asking me to come back?
Right. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, I know, like I said, LeVar Burton and then apparently Whoopi Goldberg are coming back. Have you heard about anybody else joining?
I heard a rumor that Will Wheaton was coming back.
Oh my God, does that mean the Traveler's back? Squishy hands, squishy hands.
No.
Magic squishy hands.
No, don't know. I hate it. No, I heard a rumor, but I mean I can't confirm it. So all we know, I do know like for sure, Whoopi is a for sure. He literally asked her on television.
Yeah, like she kind of has to say yes at that point.
Yeah. She was so cute though. She was so happy.
I didn't actually see the footage. I just heard about it. I saw like just screenshots of when it happened.
You should go back and watch it. If you need some, you guys,
okay.
If like the world is getting you down right now and you need something to cheer you up, like you need to see some like real joy, then you should go on YouTube and find the clip of Patrick Stewart asking Whoopi Goldberg to come on to Picard for season 2. She is so fucking happy. Like she's just smiling ear to ear for like the entire clip. She is so happy and it is lovely. It will raise your spirits. I mean, at least for a few minutes. No, it's okay. It is getting late. Well, I'm excited to see what happens in season 2. I feel like they're still like getting their sea legs, and I am like really happy that this exists. Happy to see my friends hanging out. Happy to hang out with my friends again. Excited to see some more old friends next season.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll just again, like these new characters, give them just a little bit more meat on their bones. And
yeah,
I think there is potential there. I'm on board for season 2. Still gonna keep my CBS All Access and see what they give me. So I my final thoughts are just I did enjoy it. Like I said, I was entertained. I definitely recommend if you're a Star Trek person to watch it at least once, and then maybe you'll be like me where you felt like kind of the bulk of the experience was that first watch, and maybe it doesn't quite have the rewatch value, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's all for Star Trek Picard. I just want to say one more time to everyone, keep being good Trekkies in your heart. We care about each other. Trekkies care about each other. and we care about how everyone's doing. And we all are hoping to get to this future utopia that Gene Roddenberry imagined, where we celebrate infinite diversity in infinite combinations.
Well said. That's one day at a time.
Just take it one day at a time. This is a, what do they say? What's the long distance race? Like running race?
Like a marathon, not a sprint?
Yes, I'm trying.
What were you trying to say?
Yeah, remember it's a marathon, not a sprint, is what I was trying to say. Take care of yourselves out there. We're trying our best.
All right, guys. Picard.
Find us in the collective at intothewormhole.show, on Instagram at intothewormhole.podcast. Into the Wormhole is brought to you by We Own This Town. Dude, Locutus, is that you, bro?
Hey, man.